What's up, guys? How's it going, everybody? My name is Blitzwinger, and ladies and gents, it's time for another Batman Arkham City video. I know what you're saying, Blitz. Didn't we already complete this game? Yes, but we're continuing our 100% showcase videos because a lot of you guys were asking for me to go on ahead and actually put together some more videos showcasing the character trophies, the concept art, as well as a few of the other costumes that are in the game. Plus, I really do want to maybe do like a top 3 or maybe top 5, something like that, of my favorite costumes in this game. So, with that all in mind, let's get rocking and rolling with today's video, because today we're actually going to go on ahead and take a look at, what are we taking a look at? The character trophies, because there are quite a few 3D character models that you unlock throughout your adventure in this game. Now, one thing that I do want to go on ahead and clarify, because a few of you guys have been very snarky about this and letting me know like, hey Blitz, don't you know you're actually not 100% completed the game? That says 71%. Yes, I mean, you're right, but if I press this in, we can see that that 71% appears as 71% because of the fact that we haven't done Game Plus. So if you look at it, overall progress for the original story, 100%, 100%, 100%, okay, you get the point. I'm not going to repeat myself here 1,000 times, but we did go on ahead and get all of that cleared out. Now, where you do have some validity to say is the Harley Quinn's revenge side of things, which we will go on ahead and check out at some point. But for now, let's stay focused on the task at hand, and that's the character 3D trophies. So, first and foremost, as you can see, here's the complete roster of the trophies. And let's begin in the top left corner with the one and only, the Dark Knight himself. It's Batman. So I will say that I think this is a really cool aspect of adding collectibles into the game. I think it's really neat, just in the sense that I wish they would have maybe made these character trophies not articulated, but basically it would have been nice if you could pose them yourself, because then it'd be a really cool photo mode experience where you could go on ahead and pose different characters in certain ways and pull off like cool looks, kind of like, I guess to an extent, they have in Spider-Man PS4, although I think this could have been even a step further, even though this game came out before Spider-Man PS4. But the point being, I would have loved if these were not just pre-posed. But with that in mind, I still do think they turned out really, really cool. And one of the coolest things about the character trophies is that you can go on ahead and zoom into the actual costumes, and you can see just how much attention and thought goes into these particular designs. Like, you can see the texturing on the cape, the texturing on the cowl, and it's completely different. You can see so much more detail than you do when you're just playing the game and you see the character model just running in front of you, or you're interacting with other characters throughout the game. So in that sense, absolutely a really cool feature. So from Batman, we go on ahead and move along to the next one. I do want to also hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section below, what is your favorite of the character trophies in this particular game. So here we have Azrael, who does look pretty epic. And I will say, one of the things that I noticed in the character trophies is just how detailed his costume is. Because in the game, I don't know why, it felt like it was very shallow. Like, it felt like everything was painted on and didn't have any type of texturing to it. But when you look at the costume like close up in the trophy here, you can see that he's got like a lot of armor plating, and there's a lot of layers to the design of Azrael. So he does actually look pretty cool. I think that he turns out to be a little bit cooler in Arkham Knight, but we'll get to that eventually. So for now, there is Azrael. I'm gonna go on ahead and back out here and proceed to the next character token, which is going to be Mad Hatter Batman, which might very well be one of the most terrifying looking character models ever. I mean, look at that. That is just absolutely the things that nightmares are made out of. You have this very, very, very creepy, almost like, I guess he's supposed to be like a bunny, right? Or something like that, with the ear design and the whiskers and everything like that. I don't know. He just looks absolutely terrifying. That much I am certain of. Okay, so from there, let's move right along to our next character token, and that is going to be Robin. And obviously, also, I should clarify that the character trophies we're looking at are the costumes that we see in the game as kind of the base costumes. But there are other costumes in the game that you unlock throughout. They're just not like trophy costumes, so to speak. Okay, so here is the boy wonder himself, Mr. Robin. Looking pretty cool. He's got his baton there, so pretty cool design for him. Not much to say about him there. Then we've got Bruce Wayne here, who's got a perpetually moving tie, I guess. Oh, yeah, he's got the handcuffs on because of, obviously, the way that the game begins. Oh, I actually never noticed he had the little Arkham pin on his attire there. It's also interesting that it's all like the battle damage costume. So this is Bruce Wayne as we see him at the, not right at the beginning, but quite early in the game, where basically he has been locked up inside of Arkham City. Okay, next up we have the Catwoman costume. Very, very cool. So you got obviously a very divisive design for Catwoman. But there you go. I guess if you want more of a how do we put it? Subdued costume. There's other costumes in the game as well, so that's kind of neat. Then we have Jim Gordon here. He's looking pretty epic. He's got probably the most epic scowl out of all the characters. I mean, look at his eyebrows and everything. He is just not happy. But then again, how can you be when you're Jim Gordon and you work within Gotham City? Next up, we have Mr. Freeze, who oddly enough comes along without his armor here, so that's interesting for sure. And as you can see, he is staring at some sort of a blood solution. Probably has something to do with the Joker toxin. So there's his attire there. So this is kind of the version of Mr. Freeze that you see when you actually rescue him. Now, speaking of after he's rescued, you've got the very, very, very epic looking armored Mr. Freeze. I think that this might be my favorite design for Mr. Freeze ever, period. Like in anything else, whether it be comic books or movies or, well, the movie design wasn't that great with Arnold, but animated, whatever it might be. I just think that it's just such a cool look. I think the red glowing goggles and then the rest of the costume having all this like tubing with all the freezing materials, and it's just a really, really cool design that works really well to articulate who this guy is, where he's just this epic scientist that has put together this really, really epic looking armor. Now, speaking of epic looking characters, here's Bane. And I know a lot of people actually hate this design. They say that it's like way too exaggerated. And I understand that. If the Arkham City games were realistic, I think you would have a very fair point. And to be fair, if you don't like this design, you could refer to the more kind of toned down look that we see for Bane in Arkham Origins. So maybe you like that look better. But I think that this actually works really well. I think it's really cool. It's way over the top, but I think that it's a nice balance between something that is somewhat realistic and then also something that just looks very, very, very comic booky. Here we have a Black Mask who, I'm trying to remember, does he make any type of an appearance in the game? Or is he just a character trophy? Obviously, this design looks completely different to Black Mask that we see in Arkham Origins. So it's interesting that the look is so different between the two games. But then we move right along to Clayface, who is... The character trophy here makes him look a little bit small. He's obviously absolutely ginormous in the game. If you've played the game, you would know that. I wish they could have probably made the character trophy seem a lot larger if they just put maybe like some buildings right behind him for scale or something like that, or maybe a vehicle or something. But regardless, it's a really cool design. It's very almost like monster-esque, and a lot of times I think Clayface looks more timid. Here, he definitely looks like a horror monster, and I think that that's a cool thing for sure. All right, so that's our first row of characters. We move right along from there to the next one. Here we have Deadshot, who is, of course, makes an appearance very early in the game without the mask or the attire. But then later on in the game, you actually do take him on as well through some side quests. But again, a really cool costume and a very different take on Deadshot. So I think that that's really neat looking. Then we have Calendar Man, one of the more obscure Batman villains. I don't know what's going on with his leg there. That's interesting. I genuinely don't know what that is. So if you're aware, let me know in the comment section below. So he's got the world's worst decision making about tattoos that you want to make. He looks like a weird kingpin, let's put it that way. Okay, so from there we move right along to Harleen Quinzel. This is the Arkham City attire for her. Obviously we're gonna see another variation for her in just a little bit here. I think there's one more, maybe there's even two. So that should be pretty cool. But I think that the character trophy looks way better than the actual character model in the game, which is weird, I know, because it's like, isn't it the same thing? But for some reason, the character model in the game seems to have like weird animation for the face, and the character trophy looks way, way, way cooler. Here we have Hush, who is, of course, Thomas Elliot. So pretty cool take on the Hush costume. He's got the robe and everything like that, like the long leather jacket or robe, whatever you want to call it. Trench coat. There we go. I'm trying to search for the word. I'm like, come on, brain. Think in English. And there we are. We have Hush. From there, we proceed onwards and forwards to Clayface Joker. Wow, this is actually a really, really cool concept. So you have Clayface Joker, and then you have the Toxin Joker. Although, what you realize is that obviously Clayface plays both of those roles in different points in the game. So it's kind of cool to see that. I think it's just a really, really cool concept in the game. And it's one of the coolest twists in the game when you play it for the very first time. The whole idea of Clayface being employed by the Joker to manipulate Batman. Now, speaking of Joker, here's the most terrifying version of Joker we have ever seen. He's got all these like wrinkles and like bubbled up skin. He just looks absolutely grotesque and heinous. He just looks very, 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 very terrifying. He's got pretty cool costume, of course, the classic kind of purple outfit that he is known for. So looking pretty terrifying for sure. I mean, look at that. Ugh. The eyes are all like bloodshot. That's just crazy looking. Okay, from there, we move right along to Killer Croc, which I think is an awesome character model. I think he looks absolutely epic. I like this design for Killer Croc way more than the one that we see in Arkham Origins. I think it just looks way more epic. And yes, it's way more exaggerated. And again, I understand the argument that Arkham Origins actually kind of dulls it down a little bit. It makes it look a little bit more like toned down, but I think the over-the-top look here is pretty epic. And the only thing he's missing is those like chains that he had in Arkham Asylum. That would have been a cool touch as well. All right, next up we have the Mad Hatter himself, who I think this is his first appearance because I don't recall him appearing in Arkham Asylum. So there he is, looking very, 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 very creepy. And again, what I love is anytime that they're able to go on ahead and through the costume and the design of the character, capture certain personality aspects that you can then attribute to the character. Even though, you know, there's that old saying of don't judge a book by its cover, but in some cases, maybe you can, kind of, sort of, when you're talking about comic book characters and their designs and things like that. So here's Zsasz, who looks way more terrifying than he did in Arkham Asylum. I don't remember, for some reason I can't recall if he appears in the game. I don't think we actually ever... Oh no, he does, doesn't he? Because there's the side mission with him. Yeah, never mind. Forget that I said that. He does appear in the game. Because there's the side quest that you have to complete with him. With all the telephone missions and all that stuff, so... yeah, I guess he does appear in the game. Then we have Penguin, who is quite prominent in the game. In fact, I think... well, if you don't count Deadshot as like a villain, because he's kind of an anti-hero, I think that Penguin is the first villain that you meet in the game. So that is definitely pretty cool. I love that he's got the glass bottle, like the bottom of a glass bottle as like the monocle. It's just really cool touch. And again, it makes him look super duper creepy, but also very well stylized and kind of tells you a lot about the character itself. Then we have Poison Ivy here, who again plays... throughout the entirety of the Arkham franchise, she plays this kind of almost anti-hero character, and she has a really cool character arc overall. Like if we go from Arkham Asylum all the way to Arkham Knight, it's really interesting to see where the character starts and then where the character ends up. So I think that that's really a really cool aspect about this particular character. Okay, so then we go on ahead and move along right to Ras Al Ghul, or Ras Al Ghul, depends how you'd like to pronounce that. He's got his epic saber there, and again, a really cool design for Ras Al Ghul. I think they nailed it. I think they captured kind of what you would expect with Ra's, especially the glowing yellow eyes. It looks really cool. He's got the cool dragon tattoos and all that stuff. So a really cool costume. And of course, he's got his ginormous saber as well that he tries to bestow upon Batman. Okay, we'll move right along to the third row of characters. Here's Riddler. This is a terrific trophy. It just captures the insanity of the Riddler and the frustration that he almost has with Batman. That's very cool looking for sure. I wish he only had the hat too. That would have been cool. And the cane. Okay, then we have Solomon Grundy, who I don't know if he's the biggest character that you fight, because Clayface is pretty giant as well, but I think he might be. I think he might be bigger than even Clayface is. It's a really cool design for Solomon Grundy. Again, I really think they did an excellent job with this one. They captured a lot of the kind of menacing monster aspect, the Frankenstein sort of feel that Solomon Grundy is supposed to have. They definitely captured, and I think they did an excellent job with that. Let's move right along to Two-Face here, who I was very, very happy to see appear in this game, because obviously we didn't actually get to see Two-Face in the Arkham Asylum video game. So this was the sequel title where we got to see Two-Face, and they nailed it. They really did a good job to go on ahead and have the costume with a black and white design. I think works really well for the aesthetic of the Arkham games. I know a lot of people were saying, like, I would have loved to see a little bit more of the colorful variation of Two-Face, kind of like more of the animated series one, where he's got kind of the green side, sort of, and then also the costume, I think, is it purple and orange or something like that. I get it, like, if you're a fan of those classic designs, but I think this one works much better for the aesthetic of the Arkham games. Then we have the menace of Hugo Strange, who becomes quite an annoyance, and clearly, as you can see, he has summarized that entire article with just Batman and highlighted it a whole bunch of times. So obviously, a high-level scientist there is Hugo Strange. He's still in the game, still kicking around the Arkham world and the Gotham world, I guess, in general, after the events of Arkham Asylum. Then we have Joker Thugs here, where you see several different variations. So you kind of get different classes. You have the melee class, you have the weapons class, and then you have the armored goons as well. So that's neat that there's some variety there of different character classes. Then you have the Penguin Thugs, who obviously, again, you get kind of a similar class system here, but these guys wear a bit of a different costume in general. I always, for some reason, thought that these guys here in the center here, I always thought that they were Bane thugs. But then I realized, like, well, Bane doesn't really have his own, like, group in the game. So it sort of makes not a lot of sense. It's interesting that the Two-Face thugs obviously all have the custom masks. So there you go. I guess Two-Face puts a big emphasis on specific costumes when you work for him. Then you have the Lieutenant class here. This is Hammer and Sickle. So they are, I remember there was, I don't remember what, I think it's Arkham Unhinged, maybe, comic book storyline, tells you the actual story about the two. So they are, I think they were twins, I'm pretty sure. So they were born, like, conjoined at the arms, and then they were separated, and obviously at that point, I think they joined the circus or something like that, and then Joker finds them and takes them under his wing. So That's very cool to see the two of them showcased there. Then you have the behaviorally modified inmates, which just sounds petrifying. So these are the crazy guys that run at you, and you have to constantly do the takedown defense against them. So they're a very annoying enemy throughout the game. Here are the League of Shadows assassin characters, looking very, very epic. The character model for these like ninja ladies look pretty epic. Then we have the Tiger Guards here, which are basically the group that works for Dr. Hugo Strange. So that's his like Tiger group, is kind of his organization that takes over Arkham City and sort of like oversees everything. Then you have Penguin Titan thugs, who again with that mask straight up basically looks like Bane, at least in my opinion. So it's almost like a replacement for Bane in the game. So that looks pretty cool. Very, very epic looking design. Then you have the Joker Titan thugs. And I do think it's cool how they're able to go on ahead and make them distinctly different so that the different Titans that you fight do feel different. So I think that's pretty cool. Then you have the Joker Penguin thugs. So you've got kind of the previously employed folks by Penguin, now having changed their allegiance to the Joker. Okay, our second to last row of characters begins with Two-Face Penguin thugs. So again, cool redesign. Like you can see the costume is like split down the middle with different with the whole like character motif for what's his face, Two-Face. Then you have a few of these clown characters here. Then you have animated Batman appears. Ta-da! So here's some of the varied costumes for Batman. I was so stoked when they included this. As somebody who grew up with the animated series for Batman, I absolutely love that they included that. Then we have the 1970s Batman costume, which again, I don't know why. In most of the preview images looks really bad, but then the actual character model, like when you see it in action, it actually looks pretty cool. I know it looks a lot more like cartoony, and it doesn't fit in really with the aesthetic of Arkham because everything is kind of more dark and gruesome, and you know, it has more of a darker overtone. But I still think that it's a really cool costume to have in this game. Then you have the Year One costume, which actually fits in right into this world. I think it looks really, really cool. It obviously is missing quite a lot of texturing when compared to some of the other costumes, but interestingly enough, when you do zoom in up close, you can see that it actually does have texture details. It's just that for whatever reason, when you're zoomed out, it looks a tad bit flat, almost as though it's like hasn't loaded in all the way the actual materials of the costume. Then we move right along to Earth 1 Batman, which I think is just an epic costume. I legitimately would have been stoked if this is just the main costume that we got in the game, because I really think it's epic looking. I love the kind of balance that this costume has of being modern, but also still giving a little bit of the tip of the cap to classic Batman outfits with the yellow logo and everything like that. I think that just looks really cool. And overall, it's just an epic looking costume in the game. From there, we go on ahead and transition to the Dark Knight Returns Batman. Of course, one of the most highly acclaimed Batman storylines, if not the most popular Batman storyline, just from like, you know, the general public perspective. The Dark Knight Returns, of course, is a very, very, very highly regarded graphic novel by Frank Miller. Okay, from there, we go on ahead and transition onwards and forwards to the Batman Beyond costume, which looks very, 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 very cool. Again, just like with the animated series costume, it's cool that they included this. Interesting, though, that with this costume, they kind of adapted the Batman Beyond design into the Arkham world. So unlike the animated series where they straight up like clearly made it look like animated series Batman, it's interesting that with Batman Beyond, they didn't go that route. They actually just adapted what would a Batman Beyond costume look like in this world, which I think is kind of neat. Then you have probably the most surprising costume of the game, and that is Sinestro Corps Batman. I would have never predicted that this would be in the game. I think this was a pre-order exclusive initially, but I think if you get the Return to Arkham video game that comes with all the DLC, I think you get this as part of that automatically. And you do see that he does have the actual like yellow ring there as well. So nice touch, nice detail there for the Yellow Lantern Batman. Okay, from there we transition to the variations of the Catwoman outfit. So here's the animated Catwoman to go along with the animated Batman. So I think that that's very cool that they went ahead and included that variation as well. Then if you would like to see more of a comic book design for Catwoman. This is the long Halloween costume that she wears. I personally never liked like the whole purple outfit, especially with, I don't know, maybe the ear design being like that extended or something. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this particular costume, but it's cool that it's in there for those of you that are, so that there's a little bit more variation. Then we have the several different Robin designs. So once again, to go along with the animated characters that we've already seen, here's animated Robin. Then from there, we go on ahead and transition onwards to the last row of characters. We have Red Robin, which I think is cool that they included this, because I think at the time when this game was coming out, I think Red Robin might have had his own comic book series even, so, and maybe he will in the future, obviously, it depends on when you're watching this video, but it's cool that they went ahead and included the variation for him in costume as well. And then we move right along to Nightwing. So this is the default costume for Nightwing. Looking pretty cool, pretty cool. And then I think there's one more variation for Nightwing from what I recall. Yep. Sweet. They do have animated Nightwing as well. So it's cool that all of your kind of characters that you can take into Riddler's Revenge and all those challenges, you have the variations of their animated counterparts included as well. Okay, so from there we transition to the Harley Quinn's Revenge DLC character trophies. So here's the Morning Harley, which I think is just a very cool retake on the Arkham City Harley. You can see that obviously they changed in some aspects just the colors of some of her attire and like the hair and things like that, but I think overall it's just such a cool look. She looks a lot more menacing here, and you can see that she's been impacted by the events that occur, of course, in the end of Arkham City and what happens with Joker. Then you have Harley thugs here as well, so you've got again several different classes of those guys. You got the gun class, then you have the melee / knife class, and then you have the armored goon as well with the baseball bat, I guess, to be added. Then you have Harley's Titan powered up thugs as well, who has the world's weirdest haircut. I don't know how that works from a physics perspective. I don't know how you'd be able to keep your hair up like that, but there you go. I guess it's possible somehow. And last, but certainly not least, we have another variation for the Batman Batsuit. This is the Batman Incorporated Batman, which was a storyline that Grant Morrison, I believe, wrote in the time frame that this game was coming out. So there you guys have it. Those were all of the character trophies that are available in the game. Let me know which one is your favorite. Maybe this changed your opinions on some of the character designs in the game. Maybe there's some design that you like more, or maybe there's a design that now you like less. So let me know down in the comment section below. Don't forget to have an absolutely fantastic day, guys. I'll catch you guys here next time. Peace out. See you later, alligators. Bye-bye, everyone.